The Boston Red Sox have to do some evaluation about their outfield when it comes to this offseason, but trading Jarren Duran would be one of the dumbest moves this organization has ever made.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part is it is all completely free. So you might as well start your day off the right way by tuning into this show. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB, all lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Happy Friday. We love Fridays here. This week felt like an absolute drag, although the Red Sox made it a little bit more bearable by seeing some wins, because the Red Sox have not been winning a lot since the All-Star break. So it's really nice when they do pull off those victories, especially against good baseball teams. And I know that there is still that tiny bit of hope for people that the Red Sox could make a run this year. But as it starts to dwindle down in terms of their chances, it is important for us to start thinking about the 2025 season and what that's really going to look like for Boston, because there's a lot of young talent on this team, as I've highlighted in previous episodes of this show. Lots of guys who have really developed a lot within the Red Sox system and have come up to the majors and are really contributing this year and showing their potential for the longer term and what they can bring and provide to this team, which is a team that's so focused on trying to get things right and build for the future and prioritize the players who are going to be big assets to that. So we've seen lots of players really come out of their shell this year, and one big area that the Red Sox are going to have to address going into 2025 is going to be their outfield. There's a lot of talent in that outfield right now. Lots of guys who have really stepped up to the plate and have been able to contribute in the best way they possibly can. And there have been rumblings about whether Tyler ONeal is going to be coming back. I talked about him a little bit on the show the other day and how I feel like it makes sense to move on from him. Yes, he has the power. Yes, he crushes home runs. A lot of times they are solo home runs, though. And he had that big walk-off home run the other night against the Orioles with runners on base, which was a miracle. But generally, he doesn't drive in as many runners effectively when they're on base, and he hits the solo shots a lot, and he also strikes out a lot. So if the Red Sox are trying to limit the swings and misses in their lineup, it doesn't necessarily make sense for them to keep him around, because they had tons of strikeouts as a team this year. And if they can start to dwindle down the guys who are swing and miss hitters, that will put them in a lot better of a position. So Tyler ONeal is one guy who I feel like I could see them letting walk in free agency and not bringing him back and re-signing him, because he will be a free agent at the end of this year. But Jarren Duran is somebody who is unmovable. And I've seen some rumors and speculation lately about the Red Sox trading him for pitching this offseason. And even Maz on Felger and Maz was like, in August, the Red Sox should move on from Jarren Duran this offseason because they have a lot of outfield talent, which, yes, he's not wrong about the outfield talent. They do have a lot of that. But moving on from Jarren Duran would be one of the dumbest moves this organization has ever made in history. Dumbest. And I'm not kidding, because what Jarren Duran provides, you don't get from every player, especially not every outfielder. What Jarren Duran brings to this Red Sox team is something that you don't see the average player bring to the table, between his speed, his versatility offensively and defensively, the fact that he can make an impact every single night in some capacity. How do you get rid of that? I mean, you look at a guy like Wilyer Abreu, who is having a good season at the plate and has been showing a ton of potential. He has put up some numbers that should be putting him in the Rookie of the Year conversation, but they unfortunately are not. And he's somebody who has certainly provided a lot of value, but you can't possibly sit here and compare him to Duran and say that he provides more value than Duran does for this Red Sox team. I mean, the way that Jarren Duran is able to play virtually every single night and contribute every single night is a force to be reckoned with. He is one of the scariest players in the league just because of how many tools he has in his box that he can pull out and contribute in a certain game. And even when it comes to his splits, home and away, I mean, he's consistent, and that's the biggest thing. His batting average at home right now is a 289, and on the road is a 287. Like, they're very close. And with a lot of hitters, you see a huge discrepancy in home versus away, or first half versus second half, but he has remained pretty consistent. In the first half of the season, he batted 284. Second half, he's doing even better with a 296 average. So he hasn't slipped back in the second half like we've seen from some hitters like Connor Wong, for example. He's actually increased his capability in the second half. On base percentage went from a 342 in the first half to a 350 in the second half, and slugging went from a 483 in the first half to a 557 in the second half. Now, keep in mind, this is the guy who won All-Star Game MVP after the first half of the season, when he was already playing really well. Now, in the second half, he's playing even better, and a lot of times you could see hitters start to decline in the second half. It further emphasizes the consistency that Jarren Duran shows on a regular basis and his ability to constantly find ways to get on base, because even infield singles, I mean, not every hitter is fast enough to beat those out the majority of the time. But if Duran makes contact and it's on the ground, you know that more often than not, he's going to reach base. And why would you want to get rid of that? Why would you want to lose that skill on your roster when you don't have a lot of guys across the league who can provide the same level of speed that he can? And with the issues that the Red Sox have had in 2024 between the pitching and their defense, why would you want to take away the most consistent asset of their offense that has existed all season long? Because as far as I'm concerned, you can look at the Red Sox lineup and you can say, yes, they can hit. And yes, they have a lot of guys who can mash and have good plate discipline and can work pitch counts. All of that is fantastic. But who has consistently done that more than anybody else on this team? Jarren Duran is the first answer that pops into my head, and quite frankly, the only answer to that question. He's been hitting out of the leadoff spot. He's played in nearly every game this season. He stays healthy. He's not an injury-prone player like some other players on this team, such as Tyler O'Neill, Trevor Story, guys who have trouble staying on the field. Although I will say Tyler O'Neill has played more games this year than he has in a while. But in general, throughout his career, he has had trouble staying on the field. So if you compare him to Jarren Duran, I mean, Jarren Duran is one of the healthiest players in the league, and he takes good care of himself and he stays healthy. And wouldn't you want that in the lineup? If the Red Sox were to trade Jarren Duran, yes, they'd get a fantastic return because of his value, but they would be losing that offensive spark that he provides a lot of the time. Because when the offense was seriously slumping about a week/week and a half ago and they weren't hitting, guess who the only person was in the Red Sox lineup that was continuously hitting despite that? Yep, Jarren Duran. He was the guy in the Red Sox lineup that was consistently making things happen offensively, still hitting, still getting on base, and still providing some offense for a team that wasn't providing any offense. So wouldn't you want to keep that on the team? I completely disagree. I don't think there should be any thought about trading Jarren Duran this offseason. That would be such a dumb move by the Boston Red Sox organization, to the point where I would be seriously questioning if they know what they're doing and seriously questioning their baseball credibility, because that is the furthest thing that makes sense. And do I think that we might see an outfielder traded this offseason? Absolutely. Do I think I could see it being anybody else? Yes. Should it be Duran? Absolutely not. That would be where I put my foot down. Rafaela obviously got extended. The Red Sox like his versatility. If you're going to trade an outfielder, move on from Wilyer Abreu. Yes, he's a good player, so he can still get you a good return, especially from a pitching standpoint, but you're not losing nearly as much versatility as you would be losing with Jarren Duran. And yes, because you have somebody special in the system named Roman Anthony, who I'm going to be talking a little bit more about on today's show, it makes sense for them to move on from one of these players and get value back for him. But if that is the case, it should be Wilyer Abreu. Absolutely not Jarren Duran. I think there'd be a lot of holes in this Red Sox lineup if they were to make that move and shop Duran. So absolutely not. It would be so dumb for the Red Sox to do that, and I would be absolutely crushed. Speaking of 2025 and the offseason and heading into the season, what would the ideal starting rotation be for the Red Sox? That's coming up next. If you ever have trouble finding the motivation to drive to the gym to work out, I know I do sometimes, how great would it be if you could work out right at home? That's why you need Tonal, the smart strength training system that takes the guesswork out of working out so you can make sure you're making the most of every rep. When life gets busy, fitting in a workout can be stressful. With Tonal, you can get efficient workouts personalized just for you, and they are available with the amount of time you have. So you can condense your workouts into a shorter period of time if you are limited on time, but you'll still get the same level and intensity of a workout in. So you'll feel like even if it's a 15-minute workout, you got as good of a workout as if you did one for 45 minutes. Tonal learns from your movement and provides suggested weight recommendations for every move with detailed progress reports. They even create personalized program and workout suggestions or recommendations based on your individual goals. It's like having a personal trainer at home with you, as Tonal will optimize every workout just for you. Right now, Tonal is offering our listeners $200 off your purchase with promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Tonal.com and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off your purchase. That's Tonal.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off. I am telling you, this will make you work out more because you won't really have an excuse at that point not to. So make sure you invest in Tonal today. And also make sure that after making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every day, you're making Locked On MLB with Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, your second listen of the day, because he'll keep you up to date with everything going on across the league, free agency, trade deadlines, who's in the wild card race, who's not. If you want to hear more about all of that, you can tune into Locked On MLB wherever you get your podcast right after you finish listening to this wonderful show about the Boston Red Sox and only the Boston Red Sox. Speaking of this team and all the frustration that they have gone through this season, I don't think it's unfair to say that the pressure is on the Red Sox front office going into the 2025 offseason. I think there's absolutely a justified reason for people saying the Red Sox need to do a lot in order to gain our trust fully. And trust has been a big issue over the last couple seasons here when it comes to the Red Sox front office and the fans, because the fans have lost a lot of that trust when the Red Sox front office makes empty promises and they don't fulfill those promises and actually follow through. So the question becomes now, will they just be saying things or will they actually mean what they say? Because they said they were going to go full throttle last offseason, and clearly that didn't happen. So don't lie to us going into this offseason and say you're going to do one thing when you're actually not, but that's not really an option for them. They have to make some big moves this offseason to make themselves true contenders. They are in a tough division. The Orioles and Yankees are both really solid teams. Rays and Blue Jays obviously had an off year, but they both could get right back into the fold with the right offseason. Do the Red Sox really want to sit here and be lingering around 500 and be an average baseball team again when they have all this young talent in their system? Would they really want to waste those guys' early seasons of their career when they're starting to really achieve something and really start to find their true potential in the sport? So they have no choice but to have a solid offseason. And one of the biggest things that's going to be addressed in this offseason is the starting rotation. What is the 2025 starting rotation going to look like for the Red Sox? Because you have James Paxton, who's obviously retiring, so he won't be part of the rotation next year. Then you have Nick Pivetta, who's going to be a free agent. I'm not seeing the Red Sox bring him back, which I really would prefer that they don't, because they need to save that spot for a true number one starter. I thought Tanner Houck could be that true number one starter this year, and he was pitching like he could be that in the first half. But then in the second half, he has struggled to get back to that level. So we can't really bank on Houck being the true number one starter in 2025, nor can we really bank on Brayan Bello being that either, because he had a really solid season last year and even the year before that when he was showing lots of opportunity for growth and showing tons of potential as a pitcher. But this year overall, he has struggled. And yes, in the second half, we've seen him get a little bit more back on track, which is really nice to see. So that leaves us with some hope for 2025 that he can hopefully be the dominant version of Brayan Bello that we've known for a while over the last couple seasons. But again, another question mark. You can't bank on that either, to the point where he has the capability to be a number one starting pitcher. That's the key here. Like, yes, I like Tanner Houck and I like Brayan Bello, and can they be key pieces in the rotation? Absolutely. But you can't bank on either one of them being a true number one starter. So the Red Sox are going to have to go out and get that, because they'll still have Cutter Crawford in the rotation as well, and Lucas Giolito, who suffered an elbow injury and ended up having to miss all of this season. He'll be back slotted into the rotation next year, but who knows what state he's going to be in? Like, what version of Lucas Giolito are we going to get? And is he going to be a guy who can actually contribute positively in this rotation, even if he's a lower end starter, like a number 4, number 5 guy who's kind of lingering in there but can eat innings, similar to a James Paxton type of role when he was traded to the Red Sox this year and what they intended for him to be? But either way, none of those 4 names that I just mentioned are true number one starters right now, and we just can't bank on them being true number one starters. So what does that mean the Red Sox do? All 4 of those guys are right-handed pitchers. It would be great to get a lefty in there, but if they can get a true ace who's not a lefty, I'm not going to be picky. Beggars can't be choosers. I'll be happy with it. They need to go out and get at least one of either Corbin Burnes, right-handed pitcher though, Jack Flaherty, another right-handed pitcher, or Max Fried, who would actually be my top choice because he's a lefty, and it just creates a little bit more versatility in the starting rotation when you have a rotation right now that's filled with right-handed pitchers. So my choice in that regard would actually be to go for Fried, the lefty, who's a proven high-end starting pitcher. It's the proven thing. I feel like the Red Sox have been afraid to pursue the proven guys, and they'd rather take chances on the guys who are a little bit wishy-washy but maybe a little bit cheaper, or roll with what they have and hope it works out. You can't just hope things work out all the time, because I have news for the Red Sox. It doesn't always work out the way that you want it to, and they need to not shy away from going out and signing one of those number one starters. And if they can convince one of those guys to go here and they have that true number one starter, then I feel like the rotation is pretty set, because then you can live with Tanner Houck, Cutter Crawford, Brayan Bello, and Lucas Giolito, because Houck and Bello especially have certainly shown that they have that potential to be reliable starters. I'm just not confident in the Red Sox riding on one of them being the ace. So they have to go out and sign somebody. If they decide they want to pursue the trade market, that's another possibility, but improving the bullpen will also be highly important for this Red Sox team going into 2025. Kenley Jansen and Chris Martin are both free agents. Liam Hendriks going to be returning from his Tommy John rehab, but it's really unclear how reliable he'll actually be. And I like guys like Justin Slayton, who I'm sure will stick around. Who knows what's going to happen with Brennan Bernardino, who's injured right now. Cam Boozer's in the mix. Like, what do you do with all these guys? How do you handle this? I'd like to see Zach Kelly be shipped out because he has not been reliable this year. Same with Josh Winkowski. But there are some key relievers that will be available too, like Blake Trinan, a right-handed pitcher Paul Sewell, left-handed pitcher Tanner Scott. I mean, there are guys they could choose from. And don't forget Garrett Whitlock, who's also rehabbing from Tommy John surgery, will likely be back too. And also Chris Murphy is on Tommy John rehab. So they do have a couple other guys internally that they could pull. But for some reason, the Red Sox like to experiment with Garrett Whitlock. And he's been pitching as both a starter and a reliever when he's been healthy. The Red Sox need to just pick a lane for him and stick with it. And that lane, in my opinion, should be the bullpen. Have him pitch out of the pen so that he can be in the best position possible, because he brings his best stuff when he's pitching out of the pen. That's just the reality at the end of the day. Is he thrives a lot more in the bullpen than he ever has when he's pitching as a starter. So I'd like to see the Red Sox focus on keeping him in the pen and make the appropriate moves necessary. But in terms of the starting rotation, they absolutely need to get an ace caliber starter, somebody who can provide value and be reliable in every sense of the word, and not somebody who's going to sit here and have fans asking what version of this pitcher are we going to get each day. And that's what I kind of feel like is the situation with Lucas Giolito. And if they do decide to pursue the trade market, they do have assets that they can trade. It's just a matter of what kind of pieces are they targeting via trades. Would they rather just go out and sign somebody? Because they haven't shown over the last few years that they're willing to even spend money on high caliber players. So are they going to actually commit to spending money because they don't want to move on from a lot of their young talent that they have? Or is Breslow going to go and be like, all right, I'm going to make some trades, trade for an ace, and not be afraid to pay the price of whatever that ace costs and give up the prospects necessary? I'm not seeing ownership being happy with either one. But the reality at the end of the day is that the Red Sox are now backed into a corner. They have to put their best foot forward and genuinely make an effort to build a roster that's going to put this team in contention without having to rely on just being around 500 and relying on other teams to help them out by losing in September to give the Red Sox a glimmer of hope for the postseason. This team should be able to be in contention with the young talent that they have offensively, but none of it is going to matter if they don't get the right pitching pieces in place. So they are going to have to work hard, and they are going to have an offseason that shows they are invested and that they care about this team winning. Plenty of opportunities there on the market for the Red Sox to pursue. I just want to see Henry and company be willing to break out the checkbooks and write them for the players who are worth it. And that's where we're at right now with this Red Sox team. We deserve a team that's going to be competitive. And that is the reality at the end of the day. Coming up, this Red Sox prospect is the best in baseball right now, and he is in our system and will be emerging soon. So you definitely won't want to miss that conversation. My fiance loves FanDuel. He makes so much money on it and talks about it all the time. You've heard me talk a lot about it. It's America's #1 sports book. And now I have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And if that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all of Sunday 9:15 pre-game moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting today. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. When I say my fiance talks about it all the time, it's because he's constantly betting on different sports and making lots of money on it. So it's become addicting to him, and it could become addicting to you too. So don't say I didn't warn you. Another thing that could become super addicting to you if you find success is Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Prize Picks also invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money, even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Just download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Prize Picks is the best way to play daily fantasy sports, and I promise you, it will keep you up at night trying to win lots of money. So again, don't say I didn't warn you. We've talked a lot about how the Red Sox right now are a frustrating team to watch, and they've been up and down and all over the place in 2024. But one thing we can take solace in as fans is the fact that the Red Sox future is very bright. And there are lots of young players on the current major league team and players in the farm system who are going to come up and make a drastic impact for this team down the road. And one of those players is Roman Anthony, an outfield prospect who's very talented and is now, according to Baseball America, the #1 prospect in all of baseball. He has been absolutely tearing it up in AAA since being called up about a month ago. And he's 20 years old and gets to say, I'm the #1 best prospect in all of baseball. That is pretty cool. He's expected to remain atop Baseball America's top 100 list heading into the 2025 season. With him swinging a hot bat for AAA Worcester and Tampa Bay Rays shortstop Junior Caminero technically graduating from prospect status with his 130th Major League at-bat on Tuesday night, Baseball America updated the prospect rankings, bumping Anthony into the head of the class. He was ranked number 21 ahead of this week's change. When he was promoted from AA Portland about a month ago, it was definitely interesting because we weren't sure how he was going to perform the next level up. Sometimes you don't really know how a player is going to perform when they get to the next level. So I was really curious to see how he would adapt to that, but he has adapted with such ease. He made history with the Woo Sox when he became the youngest Red Sox prospect to play in a AAA game in 46 years. In his 25 games with Worcester, he's slashing a .340 batting average, .419 on base percentage, and .530 slugging with 3 home runs, 8 doubles, and 14 RBIs. He also owns a .949 OPS at the AAA Worcester level, as the team has 11 games remaining in the regular season schedule. If he stays on this hot streak that he's on for those remaining 11 games, he has a real shot at getting his major league call-up early on in the 2025 season, and that's really exciting to think about. He's now one of just 3 Red Sox prospects to sit atop Baseball America's top 100 list over its 35 years of existence. Outfielder Andrew Benintendi held the honor in 2017, while pitcher Daisuke Matsuzaka was ranked #1 in 2007. Throwback to Daisuke. Love that man. Interesting times in a Red Sox uniform for him, though. Overall, the Red Sox do have 6 prospects ranked in the top 100. Along with Roman Anthony, infielder Marcelo Meyer is 11th. Infielder/outfielder Christian Campbell is 25th. Catcher Kyle Teel is right behind him at 26th. Outfielder Braden Montgomery, who was just drafted this year, is 61st. And infielder Franklin Arias is 94th. So those are the Red Sox prospects that are in the top 100 right now. And Jackson Holliday of the Orioles, who previously held this honor of being the top prospect in baseball, actually texted Roman Anthony because they're good friends and said congratulations on holding that honor now. So he knows what it's like to be in that position of being the number 1 prospect in baseball. But how exciting is that? And Roman Anthony makes everything look so easy, doesn't get easily fazed by much. I actually met him at Winter Weekend, and he was just so chill about the fact that he was as good at baseball as he actually is. And it was cool to see him just feel confident in his game and be able to talk about it in a way that he was saying, I'm confident and I'm able to present my information well. And that's cool for a young kid who hasn't been in the spotlight as much. And now that there's more and more pressure on him and more attention as he works his way up the charts, it says a lot about his ability to handle the pressure at the major league level. Obviously, it's different by a long shot than it is in the minors, that pressure that comes with being in the league. But if he's been able to take every step of this process that's been handed to him and adapt easily, I have no doubts that he'll be able to make a seamless transition when he does get called up to the majors. And that brings me all the way back to the top of the show when I was talking about Jarren Duran and how the Red Sox should not move on from him this offseason because it would be very stupid of them to do that. Roman Anthony coming into this outfield fold will make it drastically better, and it already is a talented outfield, and that's crazy to think about. And so think about that for a second. Roman Anthony is the top prospect in baseball. Don't you think that in the long run he would provide more value to this Red Sox team than Wilyer Abreu would? But then if you take him next to Jarren Duran, that could be one of the best outfield duos in baseball, the two of them. And then you add Cedar Rafaela, who's really versatile, into the mix and has great defense. I mean, what an outfield makeup that is. And they're all young, so they all have the chance to be here for a long time and really pave their way as the Red Sox outfield of the future, with the history the Red Sox have of having an outfield like JBJ, Mookie Betts, and Andrew Benintendi. They can somewhat recreate from a talent level some of that, and Red Sox fans can get back to feeling like they have a consistently strong outfield. So it's really exciting that Roman Anthony is in the spot that he's in. It also is going to come with more pressure on him and expectations for him to continue to perform well in AAA. But if he does, I think that call-up could be right around the corner for him, and that could be a big part of the reason why we see Tyler O'Neill walk in free agency for the Red Sox, why we see possibly Wilyer Abreu getting traded. Just do not trade Duran, and then we could see Roman Anthony right in the fold quicker than we think. So it's definitely a very exciting time in that regard to be a Red Sox fan if they can just power through the rest of this season, no matter what happens, whether they squeeze into the playoffs, whether they don't. Their future is bright. And a lot of that starts with Roman Anthony, the face of the farm system and the number 1 prospect in all of baseball. Don't forget to check out Locked On MLB or Locked On MLB Prospects too if you want to hear more about the farm system of the Red Sox as well as other teams. And make sure that you tune into Sully on Locked On MLB Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. You can just flip to his show right after you finish Locked On Red Sox, and it's a good time. I promise you. I've done some crossover shows with Sully, and he is great. Like I always say, though, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.